Hello. In this video, I'm going to create a modular kit for filling like little gaps. It's going to be a simple wall kit that I can use to fill gaps and to create walls here and there. I found that usually this is the most used kit in every map that I make, the filler wall, let's say, which is a simple modular kit with some flat wall and a little trim or whatever detail you want to have in there. But this kit will be great to fill gaps between buildings mostly. Like every now and then you're gonna have these little gaps that you don't know what to do, and you can just put a wall in there. Like sometimes like a wall can be just a wall. Just put a wall, and when you get to the set dressing part, you can put plants on top, you can put decals, posters, and there are like infinite ways to make a wall look interesting. So here I'm just making a very simple model, 4 meters long or wide, I guess. And all the other pieces in the kit, they're gonna follow the 4-meter grid as well. And it's going to be a very small kit. I'm only gonna make a straight wall, a curved wall, and a wall with a door frame. Yeah, so here I'm gonna make the curve. So as you can see, I left, I think, 4 meters between the curves, so I know this is gonna lay perfectly on the 4-meter grid. Yeah, it's like 4 meters on one direction and then 4 meters on the other. So if you do this, you know that it's gonna match perfectly. But it could also be 2 or like 2 by 2 or 8 by 8, like, I mean, this gap here between the pieces is 4 meters by 4 meters. Yeah, so this thing in Maya is pretty annoying sometimes to get the right number, because it doesn't do degrees. That number is in radians. So the radians are relative to the size of the object. So depending on how big it is and the gap, like you need different numbers there. But if you're in Max, and I believe in Blender, you can just put up degrees straight, like 90 degrees, and then it's gonna be perfect. And in Maya, you also have to align the edges, the end vertices from the curved piece to the vertices of the straight piece that you placed on the grid. And also it's good to unwrap your model, the light map, UVs and all that stuff, do before you do the curve, because then you're gonna save some time later on. You don't have to do the same work twice. Yeah, so now I'm preparing these pieces for export, making sure they have the right direction and all that stuff. And also these pieces, if you notice, they are centered on the grid. Usually when I make modular pieces, I make them extrude out from the pivot point, but these ones are centered, so that means that they are mirrored. They can be used either way. So when you want that kind of effect, like when you're not gonna have another modular piece on top of this, you can center them. So this is good for like this kind of exterior walls, or maybe some small like cover pieces, that could be used to to cover gaps and stuff, those you can also center if it makes sense for that. And for this door, I'm just going to add a quick decoration outside, just to make it more interesting, like a little classical looking, more classical looking. So let's watch a little bit of the modeling. Yeah, so that's good enough detail for now. I didn't want to make it too crazy, but also it's nice to add a little bit of hints of details here and there, make things more interesting. And later on for this kit, I'm just going to texture it. I'm just gonna use the trims that I have that I'm going to make later and the materials. So it's not gonna change so much. But it's something that if you're working in Unreal 5 and you really want to take this to the next level when it's time for the finalization, you could even bring into ZBrush and sculpt some details, like once it's all unwrapped and all that stuff, that's a pipeline that you can try as well. But for this particular environment, I'm just gonna keep it very simple. I'm just gonna use trims and tilables later. And now I'm just making sure that the door has the right size, because I want to use just one door for the entire map. Yeah, so making sure the wall is mirrored both ways. This is sort of like, it's very useful for gameplay too. Sometimes you need a little doorway here and there, and it needs to work from both sides, so It's a good idea sometimes to have this kind of walls too. So that was getting a little annoying, you know, like the grid there. This door wouldn't snap so easily. But it's still cool because in the editor is no work at all to just move this by hand a little bit. I decided to keep it generic enough so I can use in other places instead of making the pivot work specifically for that piece. Yeah, so now let's bring those pieces into Unreal, and I'm going to start placing this kit around the map. It's something that I really enjoy doing when I make a new modular kit. I like to go over the entire map and see where else I can use it. So even though I made it for one specific corner, I just look around and see like, oh, maybe I can replace this building here with this kit, you know, like I can save some time here. And this kind of work becomes you get exponential returns out of this, because each modular kit you make, you cover different areas of the map. You cover more areas of the map, I mean. Yeah, so right now I'm setting up some filters in the browser because I'm starting to get different kinds of assets, and it gets a little hard to see them if they're all the same type. So this is a great feature in Unreal that I highly encourage you to use. You only need the most important types, you know, like material instance, static mesh, material. Like for all the other ones, you can just turn off the filters. Like just keep the ones you use the most there. Yeah, so here's a great example of where you can use this kind of kit. You don't want to have details everywhere, you know, it gets very tiring. You want to have these areas of rest. So this is where a kit like this really comes in handy. Yeah, so here's what I was talking about before. But not a big deal. I love having this kind of gaps through that, you know, they hint that there is more behind the wall. You get these breathing spaces that you can place plants or like clotheslines, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, this corner just feels more interesting with this wall, you know, like it's a nice break, makes it more unique because everywhere else you get the buildings, but then in this particular corner you get this curved wall. Just trying different curve. Yeah, it doesn't work so well from this side. Starting to feel a little better, but it's still not there. Yeah, so now let's try to put that building there in the back. And now you get this little front yard, which we can make it look very cozy later. And also in VR, you know, it's gonna be very fun to explore this. Like just having this parallax effect, you know, with the foreground object and the background object, gives a higher sense of depth. I apologize for this sound, it's outside. Every now and then they turn on the exhaust for the garage, and there is nothing I can do about that. But I hope it's not too bad. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. This little corner feels very nice. And it's something that didn't really change at all to the finish line. I only finalized it. I don't think I even moved these walls later. They just worked really well there. And I can also use them to cover this gap now. So now I'm gonna do what I was saying before. I'm gonna go over some areas and just trying, seeing where I can use it. And this is a very powerful kit in Unreal because it's so easy to change the material. You know, you can just drag and drop, so the same wall can be stone or plaster. As long as you keep the trims separate, like I'm going to do, you can have some really nice variations, some different combinations. Yeah, I'm still in the experimentation phase now, so a lot of times I'm trying different buildings and seeing what works better, like just polishing the vision. I'm not really doing any drastic changes right now, but I'm fleshing out the composition, improving all of that stuff. So it's like an iterative process, right? Like you have the big picture, and then you work you on the smaller picture as you go. Like you solidify that vision, and hopefully you avoid making huge changes unless you identify some problem, you know. But sometimes we as artists, or especially I'm very guilty of this, like we get a little unsure about something, and then we start noodling, and it happened to me a lot of times that in the end I just go back to my original idea. Happens a lot of time. And so it's something that I know that, you know, like it's part of who I am as an artist. So I try to avoid, but it's just hard work. In the end, I still get good results. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this chapter. I'm going to keep trying this in different parts of the scene. But yeah, I'll see you in the next chapter.